The film begins by showing a man named Yoo Min-ho who has just been released from prison because the prosecution decided to cancel the arrest of Min-ho, who is a suspect in a murder case. Min-ho is a CEO of an IT company who is suspected of murdering his mistress, Kim Si-hee, who was found dead in a hotel room. Currently, Min-ho is temporarily released because the prosecution failed to find evidence confirming that Min-ho was the killer within 24 hours. However, while the prosecutor is conducting further investigations to find evidence and clues to uncover the truth behind the murder, Min-ho does not remain silent and tries to prove his innocence by hiring a lawyer named Yang Shin-ae, who is known as a tough lawyer because she never loses in defending her clients in court. After receiving a phone call from someone, Shin-ae drove her car to Min-ho's place. Upon arrival, Shin-ae asks Min-ho why Min-ho chose that place as his hideout since it's located in a remote area in the mountains. Min-ho reasoned that he chose the place because he wanted to avoid the reporters who had been invading his privacy since he was named a suspect in the murder case. Upon learning that, Shin-ae then tells Min-ho that sooner or later the reporters will definitely find out Min-ho's hiding place because the prosecutor's office is always watching Min-ho as long as Min-ho hasn't been proven innocent. Shin-ae also informs Min-ho that she saw a police car patrolling around the area to keep an eye on Min-ho's movements. Shin-ae then gives her business card to Min-ho, who thanks Shin-ae for agreeing to handle the murder case. However, Shin-ae immediately corrects Min-ho's words and tells him that she hasn't decided whether she will defend Min-ho or not. Because first she tells Min-ho to tell her everything in detail about the chronology before the murder in the hotel room, while she will record Min-ho's confession. Upon hearing that, Min-ho insists to Shin-ae that he didn't kill Si-hee, but Shin-ae tells Min-ho that the prosecutor currently thinks Min-ho is the killer. So Shin-ae advises Min-ho to come clean with her so that she can help Min-ho get cleared of all charges. Shin-ae then switches on the voice recorder and begins her investigation by asking about Min-ho and Si-hee's illicit relationship. Min-ho reluctantly tells Shin-ae that he's been in an illicit relationship with Si-hee since a year ago and insists that he has ended their relationship. Min-ho reveals that a while ago, he got a phone call from someone who threatened to reveal about his affair with Si-hee if Min-ho refused to give him 1 billion won. Min-ho, who didn't want his affair to be exposed, finally had no choice but to comply with the person's wishes, even though Min-ho didn't actually have that much money. After Min-ho agrees to give the money, he gets a phone call telling him to go to a hotel, where the hotel receptionist informs Min-ho that someone is waiting for him in a room. Upon arriving at the hotel room, Min-ho meets Si-hee, who has been waiting for him. Min-ho and Si-hee were nervous that someone was going to reveal their illicit relationship, which could be detrimental to both of them. An hour later, Min-ho saw several police cars stopped right in front of the hotel lobby, so Min-ho then told Si-hee to pack her belongings and hurriedly left the room. But unexpectedly, Min-ho was suddenly hit by someone from behind until his head hit the mirror and collapsed unconscious. Shortly after, Min-ho finally woke up and heard the police banging on the door of the room, but Min-ho ignored them because he saw Si-hee, who was unconscious. Min-ho tried to wake Si-hee up, but he then panicked after discovering that Si-hee was already dead. At the same time, the police managed to break down the door and immediately pointed their guns at Min-ho, who looked devastated over Si-hee's death. Min-ho, who didn't know what happened to Si-hee, then told the police that there was someone else in the room besides the two of them. However, the police ignored Min-ho's words and immediately arrested him because they only found Min-ho and Si-hee in the room, so they suspected Min-ho as the murderer. Upon hearing that, Shin-ae then tells Min-ho that a hotel cleaner gave her testimony to the police by insisting that she didn't see anyone come out of the room, as she was cleaning the area around the room at the time. Shin-ae also added that the police had checked the doors and windows in the room and they were all locked. The police had also checked the ventilation ducts on the ceiling, but they found no signs of an intruder, so the police concluded that the killer was Min-ho because Min-ho was the only person in the room besides Si-hee. Even so, Min-ho firmly believed that there was someone else in the room who was probably hiding somewhere to wait for their arrival, then killed Si-hee and framed him for the murder. Upon hearing that, Shin-ae then asks Min-ho about the person who intended to frame Min-ho, but Min-ho replies that he doesn't know about that person either and says that it's the duty of the police and prosecutors to uncover the truth. Although Min-ho repeatedly insists that he's not the killer and claims that someone was hiding in the room to kill Si-hee and frame him, Shin-ae still emphasizes to Min-ho that his confession can't prove his innocence. Shin-ae then gets a phone call from the prosecutor who tells her that they managed to find a witness who happened to be at the crime scene. Min-ho looks confused when Shin-ae informs him about a witness who was at the crime scene that was locked from the inside, and Shin-ae doesn't deny it either. But Shin-ae then assumes that the prosecutor may have found a witness from another case involving Min-ho and Si-hee. Shin-ae then shows a photo of a young man named Han Son-jae and discovers that Min-ho looks uneasy when he sees the photo. Shin-ae tells Min-ho that the prosecutor may have found a witness who can prove that Min-ho and Si-hee were involved involved in Son Jae's disappearance. Minho initially refused to explain anything, but Shin-ae convinced him by saying that the witness testimony could land Minho in jail, so Minho reluctantly told her the chronology of the case. 2 months ago, Minho, who was spending time with Si at the villa, received a phone call from his wife who asked Minho to return home immediately. To avoid his wife's suspicion, Minho decided to go home, ignoring Si, who tried to persuade him to stay because Minho was still hungover. Minho then told Si to get ready to go home because she would be driving the car. On the way, Si tries to be affectionate with Minho like a happy couple, but Minho seems uncomfortable and bluntly tells Si that he's tired of lying to everyone about their affair. Upon hearing that, Si assumes that Minho intends to end their relationship and Minho confirms it, which makes Si startle and lose focus while driving the car. At the same time, a car was traveling at high speed from the opposite direction and there was a near collision. Fortunately, they managed to survive because Si swerved the car just before the collision, while the other driver was unable to control his car and had a fatal accident. Minho and Si immediately got out of the car to check on the driver, who was none other than Son Jae, and found an unconscious Son Jae covered in blood. Si, who saw that Son Jae's mobile phone screen was still on, assumed that Son Jae was using his mobile phone while driving the car, so she told Minho about it and told Minho not to go to the police. Since Minho insists on calling the police, Si tries to convince Minho that the accident wasn't their fault, but Son Jae's negligence in using his mobile phone while driving at high speed. Si added that there were no witnesses to the accident other than the two of them, so the police would definitely suspect them as the cause of the accident and throw them in jail. Therefore, Si advised Minho to leave the scene of the accident instead of contacting the police and helping Son Jae. Minho was stunned to hear Si's words because he never thought that Si could think of such a crazy thing. However, Minho still insisted on reporting to the police, so Si then mentioned Minho's family to manipulate Minho into obeying her words. After some consideration, Minho finally agrees to obey Si and they rush back to their car. But unexpectedly, Minho can't start the engine because it looks like their car was damaged in the incident. At the same time, Minho and Si see another car driving towards them, so Si quickly gets out of the car and rushes to Son Jae's car to lay Son Jae down and take Son Jae's notebook. Si then pretends to be the owner of the car that got into an accident and wants to sue Minho for compensation. Soon, a pickup truck appears and the driver, Lee, stops his car when he sees Minho and Si acting to cover up the truth behind the accident. Si tells Lee that they're talking about compensation for the accident that just happened. But concurrently, Son Jae's mobile phone suddenly rings, so Si lies to Lee by saying that she left her phone in the car and rushes back to Son Jae's car, while Lee asks about Minho, who seems nervous. Minho tells Lee that he's still a little shocked from the accident, but he's fine. On the other hand, Si, who saw Lee driving towards her, shifted slightly to cover Son Jae's dripping blood so as not to get caught by Lee. In the present, Shin-ae assumes that Lee is the witness, but Minho doesn't seem to agree with that, so Minho continues his story. After Lee leaves, Minho moves Son Jae's body into the trunk of the car, then Si tells Minho to get rid of the car, while she waits for the mechanic to come to fix Minho's car. While waiting in the car, Si saw a car stop behind her car, and the driver, a middle-aged man, got out and approached her. The man introduced himself as Han Young-sok and offered to help Si after learning that her car had broken down. Si politely declined the offer, but Young-sok managed to convince Si by saying that he was a mechanic and owner of a car repair shop in the city. After briefly checking the condition of Si's car, Young-sok says that he'll fix Si's car at his house because his workshop is better equipped. Having already agreed to accept Young-sok's help, Si had no choice but to go with Young-sok to his house. On the way to the house, Young-sok tries to get close to Si, but Si seems to be trying not to get too involved with Young-sok. Upon arriving at the house, Young-sok told Si to wait inside the house while he would fix her car. Soon after that, Young-sok woke up Si, who had fallen asleep, and told her that he had fixed her car. Si then thanked Young-sok and was about to leave. But Young-sok asked Si to stay a while longer as he offered Si to have dinner with him and his wife, who would be arriving home soon. Si was about to decline the offer, but Young-sok suddenly got a phone call from his wife, so Si decided to wait for Young-sok to finish his phone conversation with his wife. While looking through the photos in the living room, Si was shocked to find that Son Jae was Young-sok's son. Si becomes even more panicked when Young-sok tries to call Son Jae's mobile phone, which Si is still holding. Upon knowing that Young-sok can hear Son Jae's mobile phone ringing, Si immediately hides the phone under the pillow and pretends not to know where it is when Young-sok comes to her to get his son's phone. Fortunately, Young-sok just assumed that Son Jae forgot to bring his mobile phone and didn't suspect Si, who immediately said goodbye to Young-sok and left Young-sok's house in a hurry. After that incident, Si and Minho decided to go their separate ways and not see each other for a while. The following day, Min-ho immediately ordered his lawyer, Jang Tae-soo, to dispose of his car to eliminate the trail. A few days later, 2 policemen came to Min-ho to interrogate him about the disappearance of Seon-jae and his car. Apparently, Young-sok reported to the police that the car driven by Se looked like it had just hit another car while he was repairing it. In addition, Young-sok also found broken glass that turned out to be broken glass from Seon-jae's car. Therefore, the police concluded that Se had an accident and crashed into Seon-jae's car. Not only that, the results of the police investigation also proved that Se was with Min-ho on the day of the accident, and the car driven by Se actually belonged to Min-ho's company. Upon learning that, Tae-soo, who accompanied Min-ho in the interrogation, then confirmed that the car used by Se belonged to Min-ho's company. But the car had been stolen shortly after they returned from Busan, and Tae-soo had also reported about the car theft to the police. Since the police couldn't show any evidence confirming that Min-ho was involved in Seon-jae's disappearance, Tae-soo asked the police to leave and stop involving Min-ho in a case without any evidence. Some time later, while Min-ho was having dinner with his wife at home, he sees the news about the search for Seon-jae, who has been missing for several weeks. The news anchor said that the police were hunting for a woman who was an important witness in Seon-jae's disappearance. Min-ho suddenly became nervous and anxious because the woman the police were looking for was none other than Se. Shortly afterward, Min-ho gets a phone call from Se, who contacts him using an unknown number and tells Min-ho to come meet her. Min-ho then met Se somewhere, where Se then became angry at Min-ho for thinking that Min-ho had reported her to the police, so that Se was now a police fugitive. But Min-ho denies it and informs Se that the person who reported her was Young-sok because Young-sok accidentally found Seon-jae's broken windscreen while fixing Se's car. Upon learning that, Se then thought of a way to avoid the police's suspicion of her and emphasized on Min-ho to help her since Min-ho was also involved in the accident. Se then showed Seon-jae's wallet that she had taken before Min-ho got rid of Seon-jae. With Seon-jae's ID and credit card, Se then told Min-ho to find a case of financial fraud, then fabricate the fraud involving Seon-jae. That way, the police would conclude that Seon-jae disappeared not because of an accident, but because he intended to flee after being convicted of fraud. Min-ho initially refuses to get involved with Se, but Se threatens that she will drag Min-ho and if the police manage to get evidence to put her in jail, so Min-ho has no choice but to do Se's bidding. The following day, Min-ho told Tae-soo to look for a fraud case, then engineered the fraud to frame Seon-jae so that the police would stop investigating Se. As predicted by Se, the plan goes smoothly and the police finally determine that Seon-jae is missing due to his intention to flee after being convicted of a series of financial frauds. Shortly afterward, Se managed to get the police to stop investigating her, while Min-ho went back to living his life with his wife peacefully. In the present, Min-ho confirms to Shin-ae that Se is the mastermind who planned everything, while he only did what Se told him to do. Even so, Min-ho is still overwhelmed with guilt over everything he did and regrets that he chose to obey Se's orders, instead of trying to stop Se and report the accident to the police. After listening to Min-ho's explanation, Shin-ae then concludes that Se's murder case is related to Seon-jae's disappearance because Min-ho and Se were threatened by someone. Shin-ae assumes that the person who killed Se and deliberately framed Min-ho for the murder is none other than Young-sok because Young-sok intends to take revenge on Se and Min-ho, who are allegedly involved with Seon-jae's disappearance. Young-sok, who is furious that his son is being accused of being a criminal, as well as disappointed at the police's incompetent performance in handling the case involving Seon-jae, then devises a plan for revenge. Young-sok secretly gathers information about Min-ho and Se, then executes his revenge plan by killing Se and framing Min-ho for the murder. For a while, Young-sok's revenge plan seemed to be going smoothly, but unexpectedly, the prosecutor decided to acquit Min-ho due to lack of evidence confirming that Min-ho was involved in the murder case, even though Min-ho was the only person in the locked room other than Se. Upon knowing that his revenge plan has failed, Young-sok then goes to Shin-ae to ask for her help while explaining about Seon-jae's disappearance, so Shin-ae finally learns that Min-ho and Se were involved in Han Seon-jae's disappearance. However, Min-ho seems unconvinced that Young-sok was the mastermind behind Se's murder even though he had a strong motive to commit the murder. Min-ho then wonders about how Young-sok left the crime scene and eliminated his tracks simultaneously. Shin-ae then explains that the key to solving the problem lies not in the doors or windows of the room, but in a woman named Hee-jung who works as a receptionist at the hotel. Shin-ae then shows Min-ho a picture of Hee-jung while telling him that Hee-jung is Young-sok's wife and also Seon-jae's mother. Young-sok and Hee-jung plan their revenge by tricking Min-ho and Se into coming to the hotel. Before Se and Min-ho arrive at the room, Young-sok has already entered the room and hides in the closet, while Hee-jung, who has rented the room next to theirs, secretly opens the window so that it can be used as Young-sok's escape route. Afterwards, Hee-jung calls the police to report Se's presence at the hotel. When Minho and Si panic at the sight of the police car in front of the hotel lobby, Young-sok executes his plan by knocking Minho unconscious, then killing Si. While Hee-jung is heading to the room with the police, Young-sok rushes to eliminate his trail and escapes through the window. Soon after that, the police break down the locked door and find Minho as the only person in the room besides Si. While the police are paying attention to Minho, Hee-jung takes the opportunity to secretly lock the windows in the room to perfect their revenge plan of framing Minho for murder in a locked room. Shin-ae then gets the idea to prove Minho's innocence by implicating Si in Seon-jae's disappearance, so she tells Minho to feign ignorance about Seon-jae and Si's accident. Shin-ae intends to make Si a suspect in Seon-jae's accident, which then becomes the motive for Young-sok to kill Si. Shin-ae adds that Minho only needs to reveal to the prosecutor the current location of Seon-jae's car and tell the chronology of the accident. But unexpectedly, Minho refuses to reveal about the location where he dumped Seon-jae's car. So Shin-ae then becomes upset and intends to cancel her intention to defend Minho in court because she thinks that Minho is reluctant to cooperate with her. Shin-ae then presents her perspective on Minho being the mastermind of Seon-jae's accident and Seon-jae's disappearance, which makes more sense because Shin-ae has a report from Si's psychiatrist proving that Si suffered from anxiety after the accident. Minho tries to dodge the accusation, but Shin-ae then reveals that the hotel receptionist isn't Seon-jae's mother, and that she deliberately presented the theory about Seon-jae's parents seeking revenge on Si and Minho to get Minho to tell her the truth, but Minho lied to her instead. In reality, it wasn't Young-sok and his wife who trapped Minho in the hotel, but Si who tried to convince Minho to reveal the truth about Seon-jae's accident to the police. Si also revealed to Minho that she had told the chronology of Seon-jae's accident to his parents, which then made Minho angry at Si and felt threatened because Si had exposed his crime to others. A furious Minho then killed Si and engineered the murder in such a way that he could be cleared of the charges. Since Shin-ae managed to corner him after describing the true chronology of events, Minho finally admitted that he was the one who had killed Si while asking Shin-ae to defend him to be free from all accusations. On the other hand, Shin-ae seems relieved after Minho admits his crime and then tells Minho to take a short break while she will think of a way to defend Minho in court. The scene then switches to the past and shows Shin-ae, who turns out to be Hee-jung aka Seon-jae's mother. On the night of the accident, Hee-jung assumes that Seon-jae is probably hanging out with his friends and will return home soon. But the following days, Hee-jung and Young-sok, worried about their son, were informed by the police that Seon-jae might have been involved in an accident and intentionally disappeared to escape after being involved in a financial fraud case. Upon hearing that, Hee-jung and Young-sok are shocked as they had no idea that their son had committed fraud. Shortly afterwards, Hee-jung and Young-sok get a phone call from Si who reveals the truth about Seon-jae's accident. Hee-jung is shocked to learn that her beloved son is dead, and to make matters worse, Minho deliberately made her son the villain by fabricating the fraud case. Soon after that, Hee-jung is shocked by the news that Si was murdered in a locked hotel room, and Minho, who was the only suspect, is acquitted by the prosecution due to lack of evidence confirming that Minho committed the murder. Hee-jung, who is trying to get justice for her son, meets a female lawyer named Yang Shin-ae who will defend Minho in court. After telling Shin-ae about Seon-jae's case, Hee-jung asks Shin-ae for help in convincing Minho to reveal the location of Seon-jae's car and his dead body. However, Shin-ae refuses to help Hee-jung, leaving Hee-jung with no choice but to confine Shin-ae and pretend to be Shin-ae so that she can find out the truth about Seon-jae and get a confession from Minho about Seon-jae's location. With the help of Young-sok, who intercepted their conversation, Hee-jung begins to execute her plan to trap Minho into revealing all of his crimes and telling her Seon-jae's location. Hee-jung then tells Minho that they must put Si's belongings in Seon-jae's car if they want to make Si the scapegoat for Seon-jae's disappearance. But Minho refuses as he reveals that he has sunk Seon-jae's car and body into a lake, making it impossible for them to place the evidence. As Minho asks Hee-jung to sign an agreement stating that Hee-jung is willing to defend him in court. On the other hand, Young-sok, who was listening to their conversation through an eavesdropping device, suddenly loses connection, causing Young-sok to panic and think that something bad has happened to Hee-jung. Meanwhile, Minho then reveals to Hee-jung that Seon-jae was actually alive when he was about to drown his car. However, Minho, who didn't want to go to jail because he was the cause of Seon-jae's accident, then decided to kill Seon-jae. Upon hearing that, Hee-jung suddenly became shocked and couldn't hold back her tears because Minho deliberately killed Seon-jae to cover up his crime. Hee-jung and Minho then get into a heated argument as Hee-jung tells Minho to turn himself in and confess all his crimes. But Minho refuses and becomes furious, then tells Hee-jung to do her duty as his lawyer who will defend him in court so that he can be cleared of all charges. Hee-jung, who tries to calm herself down by going to another room, accidentally finds a painting on the wall that makes her realize something, then rushes to send Young-sok a text message. Soon after that, Minho apologizes to Hee-jung for losing his temper, then tells her the location of the lake where he sank Seon-jae's car. After Minho tells her the location, Hee-jung gets ready to leave, telling Minho that she'll get someone to get rid of the evidence left in the car so Minho can be cleared of all charges. But unexpectedly, Hee-jung's car tires get stuck in a thick snowdrift, making it difficult for her to move the car. At the same time, Min-ho accidentally finds a piece of paper that shows the signature of the real Shin-ae and matches it with Hee-jung's signature. After seeing the difference between the two signatures, Min-ho finally learns that Hee-jung is not Shin-ae. Min-ho then approaches Hee-jung, who is still trapped in her car, and tells her to go into the house. Shortly afterwards, Min-ho asks Hee-jung something which proves that Hee-jung isn't the real Shin-ae. Unable to deny it anymore, Hee-jung finally reveals to Min-ho that she's Seon-jae's mother and tells Min-ho to turn himself into the police and confess all his crimes. But Min-ho firmly says that he did the right thing by killing Seon-jae, so that then makes Hee-jung furious because Min-ho has cruelly killed her son. Being intimidated by Min-ho, Hee-jung says that she only wants to find Seon-jae's body so that she can give him a proper burial and promises not to report Min-ho to the police. But surprisingly, Min-ho reveals to Hee-jung that the location he previously informed Hee-jung was a fake location because Min-ho had been suspicious of Hee-jung from the start. Hee-jung, frightened by Min-ho's threat to her, tries to run away, but Min-ho won't let her go, so Hee-jung is forced to stun Min-ho with a stun gun. Hee-jung manages to knock Min-ho down, but Min-ho then gets up and knocks Hee-jung unconscious. Shortly afterwards, Min-ho calls the police to report Hee-jung for trying to kill him, while Hee-jung finally regains consciousness and finds herself holding a gun. On the other hand, Young-suk, who was about to head to Min-ho's place, became increasingly anxious when he saw a police car heading there. At the same time, Min-ho deliberately pointed the gun at his chest and fired the weapon just as the police arrived at the place to make the police assume that Hee-jung was really trying to kill him. Young-suk, who had just arrived, was shocked to find that his wife had been arrested by the police for attempted murder. And Min-ho, who saw Young-suk's arrival, told the police that Young-suk was Hee-jung's husband who conspired with Hee-jung to kill him. Shin-ae, who has managed to break free, tells Min-ho that she'll make sure Hee-jung and Young-suk are punished for the crimes they've committed, including holding Shin-ae captive and illegally using her identity. While Min-ho seems satisfied that he managed to cover up all his crimes and trick people, Hee-jung then warns Shin-ae about Min-ho being a murderer and informs her about the truth behind Seon-jae's case. Soon after that, Min-ho, who thought it was all over, is surprised by the arrival of heavy machinery to the place because Hee-jung apparently managed to find the lake where Min-ho sank Seon-jae's car located near his hideout. Hee-jung apparently realized the lake's location from a painting she saw at Min-ho's place, so she immediately sent a text message to Young-suk telling him to search immediately. Min-ho panics and rushes to Shin-ae, but Shin-ae chooses to trust Hee-jung and they eventually manage to find Seon-jae's car and Seon-jae's body stuffed into the trunk. Hee-jung and Young-suk are devastated when they finally find Seon-jae's car drowned in a lake near Min-ho's hideout, while Min-ho can't do anything when the police arrest him for all the crimes he committed. The moral lesson that we can learn from this film is that the truth doesn't cost anything, but a lie could cost you everything. Some people think that the truth can be hidden with a little cover-up and decoration. But as time goes by, what is true is revealed and what is fake fades away.